A few years ago, I lived alone in a small one-bedroom apartment on the second floor of a not-too-big building. It was a basic place, and I only knew a few people there. One night, when I was home alone, there was a knock on my door. I walked over without really thinking about it, and there was this guy. He was a bit short, had dark hair, and he said he lived down the hall, pointing that way. He told me his Wi-Fi wasn't working, and he had no signal on his phone. He asked if he could use my place to make a phone call. That made me feel strange. Something felt wrong, you know? So I said no politely. He kept asking, saying he'd be really fast, but I couldn't help him. He seemed suspicious. When I said no, he walked away down the hall and got into the elevator. After he went away, I got interested because I hadn't seen him before. I looked out of my window to see the parking spaces for guests near the main doors. There are spots for people who live here under the building and a smaller section for visitors. I watched him walk out of the building and get into an old car parked in the guest area. It was clear that the car wasn't supposed to be there. Why did he say he lived here when he didn't? But there's a surprise. As soon as he left, the electricity went off. It became really dark. I got scared for a bit and felt like I couldn't move. And to make things worse, I found out my phone couldn't catch a signal. I couldn't call anyone for help. I was alone in a dark apartment, feeling worried about what had happened before. I stood next to the window, trying to see in the dark. Suddenly, I heard a strange noise, like someone trying to open a door far away. I got scared. Was it that person trying to get into another house? I stayed quiet and listened carefully. The noise stopped, and everything became really quiet and creepy. I tried to stop feeling nervous, but I couldn't. I kept thinking about what might have happened if I had let him inside. Why was he trying to get into people's homes? I was thinking a lot, and it didn't help that it was dark outside my window. I wished I could talk to someone or call the police. For a while, the electricity came back, but my phone still couldn't catch any signal. I tried to keep busy by playing music and walking around, hoping to calm down. But I couldn't shake off this weird, uneasy feeling. The night seemed to drag on forever. Every small sound made me jumpy. I stayed awake, waiting for daylight. When it finally arrived, I felt a huge sense of relief. I didn't run into that person again, which pretty much proved they didn't belong around here. I'm happy I didn't let him come in when I look back. I don't know what he wanted, but that night was super scary because there was no electricity or phone service. It showed me how crucial it is to listen to your instincts, especially when things seem weird. A while ago, I was staying with my ex in a new place. We had just moved in when something really strange happened. On that night, my ex was hanging out with colleagues from work, so I was by myself at home. I was relaxing, watching TV and eating some takeout at the start of the evening. But then, things started to get weird. Once in a while, I heard strange sounds, but whenever I tried to figure out where they were coming from, they suddenly stopped. As it got later, I went upstairs to use the computer before going to bed. We didn't have a regular phone connection, and my pay-as-you-go phone didn't have any credit left. So, while I was in the house for the night, I couldn't talk to anyone because I was disconnected from everyone. I was in my bedroom, working on my laptop with only a small, not-so-bright lamp on. Suddenly, I heard strange noises again. It was a soft rattling sound, really quiet. I stopped my music to listen carefully. I peeked down towards the front door, but nobody was there. Our house had a small yard enclosed by a tall brick wall and a strong wooden gate. It was super dark outside, couldn't see a thing. I tried to focus on my work, turned the music back on, and ignored the weird sounds. About 10 minutes later, I heard a really strange, creepy sound, like metal rubbing against more metal. It was so quiet, like the person making the noise didn't want anyone to hear. I got really scared. I grabbed a heavy iron rod we had and didn't turn on any lights because I wasn't sure what was happening. I couldn't call for help, and I began to worry that someone might be inside. I went to the bathroom to see the alley behind our house. I heard whispering that was getting louder, coming from behind the gate. I couldn't understand everything they said, but it seemed like they knew we had valuable things. They might have thought I was by myself, and were waiting for a moment to sneak in. I was at this place when all of a sudden, there was a really loud bang. I think the people who were trying to be quiet got fed up and started banging on my gate trying to get in. I saw the gate shaking and heard really loud hits. I'm a small girl, just 5 feet 3 inches tall and probably weighed around 105 pounds back then. I held onto this metal rod, trying to figure out where to hide. Suddenly, a really bright light shone on me. I got scared thinking someone was using a flashlight near our home. But then I heard dogs barking and people shouting. I peeked again and saw the house on the other side of the path had a super powerful light. It lit up everything, our yard, their yard, and the path. I heard some angry mumbling and bad words. Then 2 sets of footsteps hurried away down the path. I stayed in that bedroom until my partner, who seemed really drunk, came in around 4 in the morning. That night, I couldn't sleep at all. The next morning, I went outside and saw that my gate was almost falling off. It was broken, so anyone could come in through the alley. I checked the back and the keyhole looked scratched, like someone tried to open it forcefully. If the people in the house behind ours hadn't woken up, something really bad might have happened. After my partner came back, I told them everything that happened. We called the cops, and they went to check the place. They saw the gate was broken, and there were scratches near the lock. They thought someone tried to break in. The police asked us lots of questions, wrote down what we said, and promised to watch the area closely. Guess what? Some houses close by got broken into. The police think it could be the same folks trying to do the same at our place. They promised to keep an eye on things around here more often. It felt scary knowing someone tried to break in when I was alone. But luckily, nothing worse happened. In the end, we made our house safer by adding stronger locks and more lights. We learned a lesson from what happened. It was scary, but knowing the police were watching made us feel better. We were lucky things didn't turn out worse. Before I continue to the next story, if you are interested in earning from YouTube without showing your face, or without making videos by yourself using artificial intelligence, like the video that you are watching right now, then I have a special free training for you. Check the first link in the description below to get instant access. When I was younger, something happened that I'll always remember. It was the first time I stayed home alone. It happened in 2016, when I lived in a normal neighborhood with my parents and my older sister. Our street had lots of houses and our yard wasn't too big or too small. That night, my sister was at her friend's house, and my parents went to watch a movie with their friends. Usually, when I stayed home, my sister would be there too, but not that night. I felt a little scared, honestly. I was afraid of our basement, and I'm usually quite shy. But I thought it wouldn't be too bad because my parents would only be away for about 3 hours. Our house was like most others, and I was just going to relax in the living room. Everything was cool for about an hour after my parents went out. I was watching TV when suddenly, someone knocked on our front door. I got really scared because I never answered the door by myself, especially at night. I stayed still, not knowing who was there. It was nighttime, about 8 o'clock. After a little break, they knocked on the door again. I was too scared to even look out the window. I had closed all the blinds by myself after my parents went out. This was exactly what I was afraid would happen. Someone kept knocking on the door really hard, like they really wanted someone to answer, but I just wanted them to leave. After a few knocks, it finally stopped. I felt happy and looked out the window, but there was nobody there. I felt a bit better and went back to what I was doing. I didn't know who it was, but I was happy they left. I stayed on the couch for about 20 more minutes. Then I heard something tapping on the back window. Sounded strange, like someone tapping the glass for about 30 seconds. I went to see what it was. In the kitchen, I saw someone outside near the window making the noise. When I turned on the light, the person hid. I was really scared. Without thinking, I ran to my room, jumped into bed, covered myself with blankets, and plugged my ears. I was too scared and didn't want to know what was happening. I was really scared and stayed in one place for what seemed like a really long time, maybe about an hour. I was too scared to move because I thought something bad might be happening at home, like someone trying to steal things. I didn't hear any noises and I made sure to stay quiet so I wouldn't hear anything scary. After a while, when I started feeling a little less scared, I took the blankets off. Everything seemed fine and safe inside the house. After a little while, my parents returned home. I quickly went to them and told them everything that happened. They looked all over, inside and outside the house, but they couldn't find anyone. I believe the person who was trying to get in ran away when they saw me. I think they might have been trying to break into our house. Perhaps they knocked on the door to check if someone was there, and since nobody answered, they thought nobody was home. The cops came when we called and checked everything. They wrote down what I remembered and looked for signs someone tried to break in. They even went around the area to see if anyone saw anything weird. But they didn't find any hints or the person who tried to get into our house. That scary thing really scared me a lot. I didn't like being at home by myself for a while after that. I was really scared that someone might try to get into our house. Thankfully, nothing got broken and everyone was okay. But it took me some time to feel okay about being alone at home again.